Isn't it fascinating that a phenomenon called Coca-Cola has evolved from one man and one idea to influence the entire world? Did you know that Coca-Cola actually originated from a medicinal product? Absolutely. Let's journey together until the end of the video to unravel the mysteries behind these questions. Coca-Cola, this is an iconic brand that almost everyone watching this video is familiar with. Thanks to its red and white logo, Forbes magazine has ranked it as the 6th most valuable brand globally and the most valuable non-technology brand, with an estimated value of $64 billion. So, in this video, I tend to talk about how this company became so large and also highlight some of its most important product categories over the years. In 1886, the pharmacist John Pemberton invented Coca-Cola. He had a laboratory in Atlanta where he invented various non-prescription drugs, and one of them was Coca-Cola. He took it to a nearby pharmacy and started selling it as carbonated beverage for 5 cents, attracting some attention. Their bookkeeper actually chose the name Coca-Cola because the formula included coca leaf extract and coca nuts. And he thought that having 2 C's next to each other would be good for marketing. They published advertisements in newspapers talking about both its medical benefits and its freshness, seemingly attempting to grab everyone's attention, regardless of whether they were sick or not. However, this didn't work out very well. In the first year, they sold almost no glasses of it per day, not even enough to cover the advertising costs. I feel for Dr. Pemberton because even though it has become a symbolic product in history, he never truly understood it, and it turned into more of a failed endeavor for him. After about 5 years of struggle, he sold the business for $2,300 and passed away 3 years later. The buyer, Asa Candler, was the one responsible for turning it to something significant. He placed great emphasis on advertising, branding, traveling salesman, and the initial budget of $11,000. When he left the company in 1916 to become the mayor of Atlanta, as a side note, I should mention that in those days, Coca-Cola was recognized as a national product and was popular. It was widely known as a national product and was popular. I think it's interesting that Coca-Cola was considered a summer cooler, evidenced by its lowest sales in the winter months. So, in the 1920s, significant efforts were made to change this, including a large number of Christmas ads during the period and the slogan, "Thirst knows no reason." In the 1930s, as part of these efforts, they were commissioned an artist named in Santa Blanda to create an illustration of Santa Claus with a Coke that continued on with similar ads for decades and were so aggressive with them that many of the characteristics of that deception of Santa Claus are believed to have shaped our current image of him. So much of their success over the years has been because of the effective advertising like this. In the early 1970s, they had their "I'd like to buy the world a Coke" campaign. First on the radio, and then it became a popular commercial. They had a famous Super Bowl and commercial featuring NFL player Mean Joy Green, where the team went on to actually win the game that they so weekend why they had always been really protective over the Coca-Cola name, trying to keep it as strong as possible. Up until that point, it had only been used on the traditional Coca-Cola pop-up. And here is that's it. But in the 1980s, everything changed when new leadership caused them to take some risks by attaching the name to other products. First, it was Diet Coke in 1982, later considered to be one of the most successful consumer product launches of the decade. Then, it was New Coke. 3 years later, that's different video if you want to hear more about it, but it was considered to be the worst product launch of the decade. And Cherry Coke also came out that same year, and then they were hesitant to attach that name to anything else major until the 2000s. When they introduced Vanilla Coke and then Coca-Cola, Zero. Alright, that's enough about Coca-Cola. Moving on to some other soft drinks. Fanta has been significant during World War II. A trade embargo made it difficult to get Coca-Cola syrup over to Germany, so the head of Coca-Cola Germany, Max Cave, made a new product with the ingredients that he could get over there at the time. It was sold to the German public, introduced in Italy. About a decade later, it came to the United States in 1960 and became their second major offering in the country. In the 1960s was actually the first time in their history where Coca-Cola was really trying to expand their product lines. The following year, Sprite was introduced. That's a big one it was related to, because it was originally created in West Germany to be a lemon version of Fanta, but ultimately released in the US under the same Sprite and name, which was taken from a character that they used in their marketing for Coca-Cola starting in the 1940s, named Sprite Boy. So, obviously, a lot going under. 2 years later, in 1963, a tab was introduced as the diet offering. Diet sodas were becoming popular, but remember, they wanted to keep the Coca-Cola brand strong, still reserving it for their core product. So they came out with Tab instead of Diet Coke, who did obviously lose a lot of popularity when they finally introduced Diet Coke, and of 2020 it has been discontinued altogether. Frisco was another big one I should mention from the 1960s. Barks at the roots beer brand and the nation's 8th largest beverage company at the time, was acquired in 1995, making it their first purchase of a carbonated beverage made in the US. All those others mentioned were created intentionally. And finally, the last thing I want to mention here is in 1999, they made a $700 million deal with Cadbury Sweet Peaks to buy their soda business in 155 countries, not including the United States. It included multiple major brands such as Dr. Pepper. So clearly, Coca-Cola has a major presence in the market of soft drinks, but it doesn't stop there. The next category is juices, starting in 1960 when they bought the brand Minute Maid in a stock deal worth $59 million. It was a significant deal in part because it was their first major involvement in something outside of soft drinks. Minute Maid is mostly known for their orange juice. Before they were part of Coca-Cola, they were the first to sell frozen concentrated orange juice in the past. But as a part of a Coca-Cola, they introduced their ready-to-drink bottle of stuff. It became a huge hit in grocery stores all over the place and became a huge brand today. The Houston Astros play at Minute Maid Park. Maybe you remember that 1960 is the same year that they introduced Fanta, and they leading us to believe that a motivation behind this equation was to eliminate competition against other fruit-flavored drinks, and the deal also included a brand High C for more than 60 years. Now all of that has been part of Coca-Cola by the 1990s. Juices were considered to be one of the fastest growing categories in the industry. So, in the 1994, they introduced Fruitopia. It was in a big way. They invested $30 million in marketing when they launched the brand and announced an additional $150 million investment. Later, in that year, to expand production of its, maybe you remember that the crazy looking commercial for it has since become known as one of those 19's brands because it didn't make too far beyond that. And after an initial burst of popularity, their sales started to fall and it was mostly just discounted by 2003, likely because they felt it made more sense to invest their resources into the stronger, more promising, and Minute Maid brand in 2001. They spent $181 to buy Old Vala, known for their fruit juices and smoothie. But in 2020, they announced that they would be shutting down production of it, but then sold it to an investment firm. The following year, also in 2001, they launched an original juice product called Simply Orange later, followed by Simply Lemonade and other Simply products. The next category is water. The first major involvement again was in the 1960s when they bought a company called Belmont Springs that they sold about 20 years later, the next big involvement. I'm sure you're more familiar with it was Disney. They came out within 1999 and despite a fair amount of criticism over the years and a disastrous attempt to expand into the UK, it has become a top-selling brand. Then in 2007, Coca-Cola bought energy brands. It was a massive $4.1 billion deal that included Vitamin Water and Smart Water among other brands. In 2017, they bought Topo Chico for $220 million. Before the deal, they were sold mostly in Texas, but Coca-Cola mostly instantly widened its distribution across in the 21st century. The circle of problem unfolds. However, gradually, the circle of problems it solves is revealed. Overweight and increased sugar intake emerge as the main dilemmas for Coca-Cola consumers. Along with the Coca-Cola's consumers, and also environmental issues such as water and wastewater pollution around the brand's factories becoming the subject of reports against Coca-Cola. The brand's hands became tainted with the blood of its protesting workers, and media reports are filled with the stories of the death and threats to its employees. Yet, more than anything else, the change in taste and rebranding of this beverage was worse. In competition with its longtime rival, Pepsi, Coca-Cola steered towards creating a fresh blend in the taste of the beverage and changing its name to New Coke, which was unsuccessful. Now, after airing any advertisement in public places, people dismiss Coca with disdain. In reality, the main problem people have isn't with the taste of the beverage. They protest against the Coca-Cola brand for their lost memories and past, because this name changes poses a mental threat to the long-held memories and happiness of Coca-Cola enthusiasts. Ultimately, by reverting to the classic Coke through a product name change, the company managed to regain public favor. We've reached the end of the video with a crucial question. What facts and secrets do you know about Coca-Cola? I'm eagerly awaiting your response. See you soon.